Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of ShopLogic. I am your podcast host, Adrienne, and the creator of ShopLogic. What is ShopLogic? It is a website, app, and podcast, and soon to be ethical brand certifier, and it's all about ethical consumerism. So learning together how we can buy better in order to heal various aspects of consumerism by being better informed of how to read labels, know which brands are ethical, which ones to avoid. But it's not just brands, it's also ingredients, product packaging, and much more. So the name of the game is to learn how to make better buying choices so we can create a positive and not negative impact on the things that we care about the most: animals, people, and the planet. Have you ever heard of ethical consumerism? It's kind of a mouthful. It is also known as conscious consumerism, mindful consumerism. It's essentially being mindful of what we're buying and recognizing that we need to make better choices. There's a ton of power that you have in order to sway the industry for better or for worse. Ethical consumerism is choosing to buy organic or non-GMO rather than pesticide-ridden produce, choosing plant-based over animal-derived ingredients, choosing glass and cardboard packaged products that biodegrade and are recyclable over maybe single-use plastic, choosing fair trade for items that commonly involve labor exploitation, and boycotting brands that test on animals, wearing clothing that was not made with wool or leather or harsh chemical components, just to name a few examples. I am the creator of ShopLogic. I collect and organize all the data. I do graphic designs for the website and app, and I'm also the author and illustrator of kids' books about, of course, ethical consumerism. My goal is to educate myself and anyone who shops on how what we buy always affects animals, our health, the environment, and laborers. Is it going to impact those things in a good way or a bad way? That's why it's always good to be informed. It's just a matter of buying this and not that. Who are you as a listener? You are a person who questions what they buy, what they eat, what they wear. You question products and brands you consume. Maybe you're curious about being vegan or plant-based, and you want to become wiser about your buying choices for self-improvement and global improvement. If you're wondering how you can make an immediate difference in the world with your shopping choices alone, you are in the right place. So on last week's episode, the theme was holiday shopping, the transportation of things, sustainability of ordering online versus in person at the store, is it vegan, featuring Trader Joe's holiday drinks and food, buying with ingredients in mind, cocoa farming, and what's wrong with candles. On today's episode, we are going to talk about soup season. It's December, so what are some ingredients to watch out for? Canned foods, are they healthy or not? A brand analysis on some of the leading soup brands, Panera bread and their menu options, greenwashing techniques, animal testing in the UK. It is positive news, so stay tuned for that. Shoe production featuring the UGGS brand, and December happens to be Human Rights Month. It is December. It is finally that time of year when soup actually seems like a very desirable thing to eat. So what is vegetarian and what's not? A lot of soup that you find at the grocery is not going to be vegan. It might be vegetarian, but so often they put milk and other non-vegan ingredients in soup. They use milk as an ingredient for a lot of these soups as a thickening agent. What is your favorite soup? I like making my own lentil soup or potato soup at home. I have not, admittingly, made my own soup in a very long time. It is kind of a process, but it is very therapeutic to do on a cold, gray winter day with snow on the ground and you're trapped inside. That's when it's time to get busy in the kitchen, chop up the onions, chop up the carrots and the celery, and dig into that spice rack and make your own concoction. Sometimes I follow a recipe, sometimes I do not. There is a wealth of recipes online. I don't have any recipes per se on the ShopLogic website or app. It's a very oversaturated market, so to speak, because you can Google so quickly and there's like a million food recipe bloggers out there. So I strongly recommend simply Googling whatever soup comes to mind. There's almost always a way to veganize it. And why do you want to eat vegan soup? Because you don't want to hurt animals, and any animal ingredients, meat, beef, pork, etc., fish, shellfish, we don't want to eat these because animals are living, feeling creatures just like you and I, and even the byproducts. So why go as extremely as vegan? Why not just be vegetarian? Wouldn't that be so much easier? Yes, it is easier. I was vegetarian for about 10 to 12, maybe even 15 years before I officially became vegan. But at that time, I was consuming a ton of dairy products. It was very easy because the world accepts vegetarian. They do not quite understand what vegan is. They see that as very extreme. The point is, you don't want to hurt animals in any way. So obviously, if you're eating meat, that animal's been slaughtered. You don't want to contribute to that. You don't want that to happen. Nobody does. It's easy enough to give up meat. But when it comes to other ingredients like milk, all of those industries are problematic because even the animal byproduct ingredients like milk, cheese, butter, eggs, things like that, where an animal can live and doesn't necessarily need to die in order to get that product. Factory farmed animals are not living natural lives. So that's why we want to avoid any and all things that come from an animal for their own well-being. So back to soup. The most popular soup brands in the US being chicken noodle, tomato, cream of mushroom, lentil, potato, French onion, black bean, miso, vegetable soup, squash soup, and broccoli cheddar soup. Just about all of these types of soups are likely going to contain an animal-derived ingredient. So chicken noodle, that's very easy to understand. There's chicken in that. It's clearly not vegan, vegetarian. Tomato soup usually has milk in it. Cream of mushroom, okay, the cream, obviously milk. Lentil soup, that one, it can be vegan. Often can be vegan. It's very easy to find that vegan, but you still need to be careful because of the broth. So like the stock, these big companies that are soup producers, they put meat stock as an ingredient in their products. So even something as innocent like lentil soup, like, oh, what could be the issue there? You want to be mindful of any chicken broth, for instance. Potato soup, that usually contains milk. Again, with broth, you got to be careful. French onion soup usually has beef broth in it as the base, and then the cheese on top, which is from milk. Black bean soup, okay, this is another one kind of like lentil soup where there is a good chance you can find it vegan. It's very easy to make it vegan. They don't need to put milk in it, but a lot of times they do put milk in soups as a thickener and for flavoring. So you want to be careful with that. And black bean soup, I mean, there's a chance there could be chicken broth in it. Miso soup. What is miso? Miso is a Japanese ingredient. It's actually very nutritious. However, you want to be careful because that could contain fish. We have vegetable soup. Okay, now that one's got to be vegan, right? Vegetable soup, how could that not be veggie friendly? But you want to be mindful of the potential existence of chicken broth in the vegetable soup, which is so silly, or milk as an ingredient as the thickener. Even with vegetable soup, you're gonna want to pay close attention to the ingredients. I love when they put like a very clearly on the front the word vegan, so that it's a no-brainer. You don't have to go through all the ingredients in your mind and question it. If it says plant-based, that does not necessarily mean that it's vegan. It's a tricky term that a lot of food brands are using. I see it as a little bit deceptive because just because it's plant-based doesn't mean it's vegan. So plant-based, I have fallen for it before and I won't be fooled again. You really need to see the word vegan somewhere written on there, or use the ShopLogic app, see if that particular brand is 100% vegan. Sometimes they don't like to put the word vegan anywhere on the label because they actually feel, these companies and brands feel like they are turning people away from the product because, I don't know, I suppose to some the word vegan has a negative connotation, like as if the item is lacking something, like it's lacking protein or lacking flavor or something of that nature. So a lot of companies won't even go out of their way to say that the product is vegan, which I think is a huge mistake because the vegan community is very big. Even non-vegans are becoming aware it is a healthier diet typically. It is the most ethical diet you could possibly subscribe to. So yes, in a perfect world, the word vegan would be very clearly listed on the labels, but that's not always the case, at least not yet. Non-vegan ingredients found in soup, may be milk, chicken stock or broth, beef stock or broth, chicken fat, natural flavor. That is a very tricky term. It's just so general. Natural flavor could be referencing an ingredient that is not vegan. So you don't want to just assume that natural means like from a vegetable. Butter could be in a lot of soups, lactic acid, cheese cultures, cream, egg noodles. And here are some other common non-vegan ingredients often found in soup. You're going to have the broth and the bases. So chicken, beef, or fish broth and stock. You're going to have meat products. You're going to have lard, which is rendered pig fat. And some other dairy products might be milk, cream, evaporated milk, butter, cheese, casein. I still can't say that correctly to save my life. Other animal-derived ingredients may include gelatin, honey, which I find a little strange. I've never seen honey in soup, and hidden colorings and flavorings. So carmine or cochineal is a red dye derived from insects. Natural flavorings, the tricky term, can sometimes be animal-derived. You have to check. And vitamin D3 can sometimes be derived from sheep's wool. Very odd and bizarre. They add vitamin D3 to a lot of stuff. Pertaining to the aforementioned types of soup, what is miso? Perhaps you've never heard of this thing. Miso is an ingredient. It is Japanese, and the Japanese culture, it's used a lot of health properties. It is fermented, and just looking at the ShopLogic profile on miso on the website, miso is good for digestion, promoting brain health, reducing gas, constipation, and reduce symptoms linked to digestive problems, including inflammatory bowel disease, which almost everybody on earth has today for some reason. So miso is pretty good. Miso is also good for longevity. It helps boost your immunity, combat free radicals, detox your gut health, heart health, lower your blood pressure, reduce cholesterol, as well as a ton of other advantages. It is an alkaline food. It has an 8 pH level once digested. Miso is gluten-free. Miso is a common food allergen if you are allergic to soy, and it is fermented, which is probably one of the reasons that it is extremely healthy for you. In terms of sustainability, miso has a low water footprint, low carbon footprint, and it is pretty sustainable. It's vegan, and no animals have to be used in order to produce miso. So miso is also a complete source of protein and rich in a variety of nutrients and beneficial plant compounds, but it is super high in sodium, which is why most people only use a teaspoon or so when they mix it with hot water to become the base of miso soup. But you can use miso, you throw it in as an ingredient for other dishes as well, typically Asian dishes. Miso soup, however, if it is pre-made in the store, on the shelf at the grocery, it's not always vegan because the very traditional recipes are going to use a fish-based broth called dashi, but it can easily be made vegan by using a kelp, kombu, or shiitake mushroom-based broth. Dashi, the broth, if this is one of the ingredients, it is not vegan. Traditional dashi uses bonito, which are fish flakes. And sometimes people will add in tofu, seaweed, green onions, and vegetables like spinach or mushrooms, and that sort of thing. If you're in a restaurant, they might throw other stuff in there. So you always want to check with your server before you just go ahead and assume that miso soup is vegan, because that's not always the case. So what is up with the bone broth craze? It seems like a few years ago, bone broth was not even a thing. Like nobody even knew about it. And bone broth is, it's soup. It's a broth. It's like an ancient food staple, apparently, championed as like a superfood for lots of wellness benefits. And it has been in a lot of cultures for a long time, apparently, but it has really gained traction in the Western world, specifically in the US, fueled by a lot of celebrity endorsements and health trends like the paleo diet. And I don't know, they've got health claims that are like, oh, your improved joint health, better digestion. And some of these might be the case, but the reason it bothers me so much is that it's not vegan. A cow needs to die in order to produce bone broth. There is no such thing as vegan bone broth. It's just one additional way that we continue to exploit these poor animals that do not want to die. I am not a fan of bone broth. There are other superfoods. There's a million superfoods out there you don't need bone broth. Have you tried bone broth? I clearly have not. I don't even know if it tastes good. It's really just more about the health benefits and people who subscribe to very trendy diets like keto or paleo. But yeah, not a fan. Not a fan of bone broth and beef tallow and like all of the many other ways that they're using cows like crazy, trying to promote them as like healthy. It's like, no, it's not. It might have some health properties, but it's also going to have negative health properties because it's an animal product. All animal products or byproducts have a lot of serious health consequences that people just don't realize. Cholesterol, as I had mentioned maybe in the last episode of the ShopLogic podcast, all animal foods are going to contain cholesterol, but there's no cholesterol in plant foods, vegan foods. When it comes to soup, the unhealthy ingredients, even if they are vegan, is going to be sodium. Okay, they put a ton of salt for flavoring in soups, and unhealthy fats like trans fat from partially hydrogenated oil or too much saturated fat. Okay, but the saturated fat is going to come from meat and cream. They're going to add sugar to soup. MSG, it's an ingredient that makes food just taste so much better. It's like an addicting property. And a lot of people have a bad reaction to MSG and I know my mom has to always ask if we're at a Chinese restaurant, she has to say no MSG because she actually has a physical reaction to it, like almost like an allergy. But MSG is just good to avoid in general. It's not going to be a healthy ingredient at all. But soup can also contain preservatives like nitrates, artificial flavors. Commonly found in canned or instant soup, you're going to have refined flour, thickener, hydrolyzed protein. And yeah, I think the main thing to look out for, even if it says vegan on the product, is look out for that high sodium content. Often, over half of your daily limit of sodium is in just one can of soup alone. You're going to have hydrogenated oils, maybe I said that already, and chemically altered ingredients for flavor and texture. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. A big thing to watch out for with soup is sodium. You might add croutons and crackers to accompany your soup. I know I like at least maybe a little piece of toast or crackers, definitely. And croutons and crackers are not necessarily vegan. Croutons usually contain butter. Crackers can often contain milk, and they are not gluten-free if you subscribe to that. You can find croutons and crackers vegan if you look hard enough, but maybe you don't need it. If the soup's really that good, you probably don't need to add that unless you like a little crunch. Maybe you like a little crunch in your soup. It's very difficult for me to eat salad without croutons in it, but yes, it is a thing you can find in mainstream grocery stores. You can find croutons that are vegan. Crackers, it's for some reason really hard to find vegan crackers. It's just like milk, and every single product contains milk. It's nuts. It's not nuts, it's crackers. It's driving me crackers. Not finding a vegan cracker brand that I like yet. Last week, I went to Panera Bread, and it was only due to a family function. I really don't like Panera Bread. It's very difficult as a vegan to find anything on their menu that is acceptable. I don't even think the food is good. I mean, I went there back in the day when they first started. I remember when it was like, what's Panera Bread? Ooh, this new place. They've got soup and salad, or they've got bagels and tons of bread, obviously. And so I frequented it so much, probably to the point of burnout, but I wasn't vegetarian back then. And now when I visit Panera, I get really upset that they come across as a place that's like healthy. They don't say that, but they try to give you this impression that they're healthy because it's like, oh, soup and salad must be good for me. But it is far from it. There are so few vegan items on that menu, I swear. I think black bean soup is one of the only vegan items, period, that they even offer. And do they even label it as vegan? Or no, you just have to go through the ingredients manually in your mind and, ask yourself, is it vegan? Is it vegetarian? Is it gluten-free? Whatever. So even the salads that they serve, okay, and this one always gets me, the salads are full of meat. The food is high in sodium. I mean, you would think that when people hear that you're vegan or vegetarian, they're like, oh, what do you eat? Salad all the time? And obviously not. But I just find it so ironic that anytime I'm out in a restaurant and try to find a salad that I can eat, they just fill it with meat. There's tons of meat, bacon, egg, all the like most unhealthy ingredients they throw onto salad, onto a bowl of lettuce. And I guess that's to make it more enticing because, lettuce doesn't really have a flavor. Not really. So they want to loot it up with all of these like flavorful, more appealing foods. And so it is so damn hard for me to find any salads out in the restaurants. Out at Panera Bread, for instance, every single salad there is full of meat. And of course you can say, oh, can you like not include chicken? But then it's like you've taken away one of the main ingredients and you're not substituting that with anything. While you can request that things are taken out, don't put in Parmesan cheese, or don't put in the chicken, or don't put in the egg, or what have you, then you're literally just left with a bowl of lettuce and some dressing. And it's like, well, I could have just done this at home. So I don't like to do that. I don't like to order and then just have like all of these ingredients subtracted from the overall what that meal is supposed to look like. I would rather just get, if there's even just one vegan thing on the menu, like at Panera with its black bean soup, then so be it. I'll get that. But what Panera also does that really irks me is I've noticed they've had kind of a rebranding. They have changed a lot of the interior decor in their store and on their menu to be like this lime-colored green. This is called greenwashing. This is to give the public the perception that they are clean and green and healthy. Greenwashing is a deceptive marketing tactic. So companies mislead and portray their products or services or overall practices as more eco-friendly or sustainable or healthy, but that's not necessarily the case. So it's often to capitalize on growing consumer demand for eco-conscious options. So it involves vague claims, nature imagery, or highlighting green aspects while hiding significant negative environmental aspects, ultimately confusing consumers and undermining genuine sustainability efforts. This is what I'm reading. It's discussing more the sustainability aspect, but green is also used for a lot of packaging to give the impression that it's healthy. So it's not just about sustainability. It's trying to come across as like the better choice. And I noticed that Panera did that. Panera completely revamped their restaurants, which is hilarious. It's such a joke. It's like this food is not healthy at all. Everything has meat or cheese in it. You have like literally 1 or 2 vegan options on your whole daggone menu. And you're going to like paint the walls green. You're going to paint your menu green, trying to like give off this vibe like, oh yeah, we get it. We're all, healthy, eco-friendly. It just isn't working. It's misleading. I see right through it. But see, this is like marketing psychology 101. Is like there's so much that goes on to the unconscious mind. It's like people don't even really, they're not aware. They don't really think why they're drawn to something or why they're attracted to it or why they feel like they have a positive image of something. But it's literally just a color. But that's what the mind will do when it comes to marketing psychology. So they're not stupid. They are a major corporate restaurant chain. They know what they're doing, and it works. It's literally an effective way to trick the consumer, or in this case, the restaurant goer, to give off a more positive vibe when it doesn't really even exist. And actually, they haven't even. When I first saw that Panera had all this green on their menu, I was like, oh, thank God, they've changed up their menu. Finally, they're going to have some more veggie-friendly options. No, not the case. So this is greenwashing, very classic greenwashing. Also, this has happened before, not just at Panera. It's happened at several other restaurants when I eat out. When you're looking at the menu and they have not specified if something is vegetarian or vegan or perhaps, gluten-free is just a big one with celiac, or I don't know, calories. I don't know, whatever you're seeking out, or allergies. If there's like, there it contains soy or it contains egg, contains peanuts, something like that. So if the menu is not that informative about dietary restrictions or dietary choices, I have asked servers at restaurants before, like, oh, what here is vegan? And 9 times out of 10, they have no idea what that is. They have no concept. I say they'll point out a few things that are like gluten-free, but I remember in some restaurant, she was like pointing out sushi with salmon. And I was like, well, no, vegan is, that's fish. I don't eat anything. Like, oh, she's like, oh, no meat. I said, nothing from an animal. So it gets a little, like, I'm very patient about it. I don't get attitude with the servers. They're just doing their job. But it's like, if you're going to work in a restaurant, you should probably have informed yourself, or I don't know, maybe during work training, like, just be aware of what these different terms mean exactly, especially when you're trying to impress like your customers, for a better tip. And you can be like, oh, yes, I know, like if you have this special request, I know all about that. Boom, boom, boom. Here's 3 great recommendations I have on the menu of things that are vegan that you can eat and they don't conflict with your ethics. But instead, it's usually the case that they don't know what the hell vegan means. Maybe they assume it's vegetarian, but then even if you say you're vegetarian, they're going to ask if you eat fish. It's like, no, I'm not pescatarian. It's just like nothing from an animal. That's the best way. My best advice I can give, if you're in a restaurant, say, I'm vegan. What do you recommend? And vegan means, and by vegan, I mean nothing from an animal. And then they'll point out something and it has egg in it. And I'll be like, well, it has egg in it. And they just kind of give me a blank stare. And I'm like, that's from an animal. Let's go back to preschool, people. It can be very, very frustrating. But I think that just goes to show how uninformed so many people are of, why would you even eat like that? What do you mean you don't eat meat? What do you mean you don't eat cheese? What do you mean you don't eat egg? It's like, it's, to me, it equates, because it's a choice, because it's a matter of ethics and not allergies. It kind of equates to like kosher or halal, if you will, which are religious terms, meaning they have dietary restrictions pertaining to their beliefs. So it's not the same thing as vegan, vegetarian, but it's just a different set of rules that they follow. And yes, it might be a choice, but it is as strong to me from a spiritual aspect as it might be to a Jewish person with making sure that they eat their food that's kosher. So it's, just something restaurant workers out there, and I used to be a restaurant worker. It's good to be aware of what your clientele is asking for. Just know it's very simple. Like, vegan means you don't eat anything from an animal. Vegetarian means you don't eat any meat. Pescatarian, it's a little bit rare, but it means you don't eat any meat, but you will eat fish. And those are the basics. Gluten-free means nothing that has wheat in it. Back to canned food. The majority of this episode is about soup. So speaking of which, canned food, is it healthy or not? This is something I've really always wondered. So nowadays, people are becoming very aware of the packaging for health reasons, because if you have plastic, for instance, like a plastic water bottle, and it has sun exposure, the microplastics will leach into the water, and then you drink it. And then now that's why people are, I don't know, they estimate that we have X amount of, every single person these days has microplastics inside their bodies, and it's just toxin, not very good for you. So that begs the question, what other types of packaging might be good, might be bad? So when it comes to canned foods, they can be very healthy. There are some pros of canned foods. Nutrient retention. Foods are canned at peak freshness. So they lock in minerals, protein, fat, and fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. They are convenient and affordable and very accessible. Super budget-friendly, and people can get their dietary needs met. Very nutrient-dense options like, beans or fruits and vegetables. Like, any canned food is actually really good. There's just a few things to watch out for. Sodium and sugar, yet again, and BPA lining. So just like plastic, some cans have linings. So choosing glass or BPA-free cans is a better option. But do they even say that on the label? How to choose healthy canned foods. Read the labels, look for low sodium, no added sugar or salt, something of that nature. Rinsing canned beans and vegetables can reduce the sodium that they've put into that, like washes off the salt. Can canned food be good for you? Turns out, yeah, like it's not bad. What I like the most, and this applies to frozen food as well, is that they're using ingredients when they are in their peak ripeness. So for instance, if it's like a tomato, they're going to be using fresh, ripe tomatoes full of nutrients, etc. When we find tomatoes at the store, there's a good chance that they had to be shipped across the country for days and days. And so therefore they pick the tomato when it's green before it's ripened on the vine. It contains very little nutrition compared to a ripened tomato. When you have canned foods and frozen foods, it's like they're frozen in time. It's like they've preserved really well and they're not losing any nutrition in the process, really. Unless we forget, back in the day, your grandparents probably canned their own food. So in terms of sustainability, when it comes to packaging, say like with soup, since we're focusing on soup, canned soup is recyclable. So that is very good. You just rinse it out real good, throw it in the recycling bin. It is a very sustainable option for packaging. You have compostable soup containers. They're like, biodegradable. You have Tetra Pak. That is also a good option. I believe that one's recyclable. And a lot of times they have used recycled materials to make that. Plastic single-use packaging, that's not really a great option. And probably the most desirable packaging would be glass. Glass is safe. It is recyclable. If you're like me, you've probably directly recycled the glass jar for your own needs and rinse that out, wash that up, and stick it in your pantry to use as a storage container for something else. But you want to avoid plastic. Again, just too much plastic in the world, too much microplastics. It's not good for your health when you ingest it. Yes, plastic can be recyclable, but it's not always. And plastic, the material itself, takes like 250 years or something crazy just to biodegrade. So you really want to avoid plastic at all costs. So the top soup brands in the US are Campbell's, Progresso, Amy's Kitchen, Pacific Foods, Imagine Organic, Healthy Choice. If I go to the ShopLogic app, the app is a really good way to quickly get your info if you are shopping. Okay, so you go to the grocery and you're craving soup because it's freezing outside. You go to the soup section, several brands to choose from, and you're like, Campbell's, it's a classic, right? It's like Andy Warhol's art. It's just been around forever. Everybody knows Campbell's. How can you not? But go to the ShopLogic app, go to food brands, and you search for Campbell's, and you'll see it because I've posted an image. It's the recognizable red and white logo, and you'll see that they're known for soup. You scroll down, it says vegan products, and yes, surprisingly, Campbell's does have some vegan soup options, so that's good to know. However, is it 100% fully vegan brand? No, it is not. You will find this on the app, this information. Maybe you're a person who doesn't want to support a brand that uses beef and chicken and pork and fish and milk and all kinds of non-vegan items, animal-derived ingredients. So maybe you don't want to support them at all. So then you can move on to another brand. But if you're like, you know what, it's vegan, I'm going to actually tell this company through my purchase that like, yes, I am requesting more vegan products. That is a good way to indirectly communicate the consumer demand that they can meet, hopefully in the future, but without meat. Campbell's, you're going to see, why is it not a 100% fully vegan brand? Chicken, beef, milk, eggs, gelatin are some of the ingredients they use. Gluten, they do have some gluten-free items. That's good to know if you are gluten-free. Allergens, there's going to be milk, egg, wheat, soy, fish, shellfish are the big ones to watch out for if that applies to you. Is it organic? Some products, they do have some organic products, non-GMO, some products, palm oil, they do use palm oil. So I don't know if it's every single item, every single variety of soup uses palm oil, but if you are concerned about the rainforest, specifically in Indonesia and areas where they produce palm oil, it involves a lot of deforestation and displaced wildlife. It's really, really sad, and that's why it's good to just stay away from palm oil as much as possible, as difficult as that may be. Kosher, Campbell's does have some kosher products. They do not have a parent company, so they're not a subsidiary, and they're based in New Jersey, USA. So if you are American, you want to say, oh, I want to support, my nation's economy, it's you can see, okay, they're an American brand. And then I even have ShopLogic certification eligibility listed on the app. No, this brand must improve. It would not be eligible to have an ethical brand approval stamp from ShopLogic in the future. By saying, no, the brand must improve, I mean like in so many ways. Like they'd have to turn fully vegan, they'd have to ditch their palm oil. So then there's contact info for Campbell's and the website, if you wanted to look at that. And why is there contact info? It's there if you want to be a little old school and actually send them a message or give them a phone call and give them your consumer feedback and say, hey, I'd really love it if you made more vegetarian friendly soups, or more gluten-free, or whatever your interest may be. So if you go back to the food brands on the app and you just search for soup, there are so many different brands where you can quickly see if they're vegan or not. It's really cool because you just literally say soup, like I want some soup. And you click on Amy's Kitchen. Amy's is a very, very popular brand in the veggie community. However, you got to be careful with them. They are not 100% vegan. I recently had some Amy's canned soup. It was kale, quinoa, whatever. It was so out of this world good. Oh my God, it tasted so good. It was almost better than anything I could make myself at home. And it was super convenient, easy. It was vegan and it said so on the front. So that was cool. And also a lot of Amy's products are organic. This particular soup I'm referencing was organic. But then you can scroll down. Dr. McDougall's Right Foods, that is a brand that is fully vegan. So they're based in California. No surprise there. And they are known for soup, among other things. So if that brand is available at your store, you could buy that without even thinking about it. You could just grab any of those products off the shelf because now you know, thanks to ShopLogic, that the entire brand is vegan friendly. Eataful, is this a UK brand? I think it is. You live in London. Imagine Foods, well, they're not fully vegan, unfortunately, but they do have some stuff. So that's why it's on here. Lotus Foods, yay. So Lotus Foods is a brand that is totally vegan. And they even are a certified B Corp that has a pretty decent score, also based in California. Certified B Corp, or Certified B, I think, Cert B, whatever. Certified B is, if it's B Corp certified, that means that it's this company, this brand, what have you, this agency that goes and does different ratings. They investigate the laborer aspect. So it's referencing the employee working conditions, if they are ethical in the sense of their employees. I go back and forth. If it's certified, if it's B Corp certified, better than no certification at all. But in terms of the B Corp certification scale and what's required to be on that, it's questionable. But again, better that at least it's certified to say that their employees are being treated fairly. Super important. Pacific Foods, another good choice. They are actually known for plant milk, hemp milk, different plant milks, but also soup. No, they're not a fully vegan brand because they do have some chicken and cow milk products. This is all information you can find out super quickly on the app. Go to ShopLogic, just Google ShopLogic. You'll find the website, you'll find the link where you can download the app today for free. There's no catch. It's totally for free. And can you freeze soup, by the way? I know I sound like a complete grandma. This whole episode's on soup. I mean, if that wasn't the first clue that I'm aging, then what is? Yes, you can freeze soup. That is something I feel like is an old person trick. But ever since I started freezing bread and actually thought wow, this really does work. It makes it last longer. It doesn't get moldy and it tastes the exact same when you toast it or microwave it. I'm like, what else can I freeze? So you can freeze soup, but some soup freezes better than others. Broth-based, pureed, and lentil soup will freeze well. But soup with dairy, which we don't even want anyway, pasta, rice, or starchy vegetables may separate and become mushy. We don't want mushy soup. Yeah, broth-based soup, vegetable, minestrone, clear broth soup, lentil, black bean, split pea, vegetarian chili. These are all things that will freeze easily. Soups that you just don't want to do, just think it kind of is just you just have to think about it like rice or pasta. If something like that is thrown in there, no way. Let the soup cool down first and turn to room temperature before you freeze it so it doesn't get freezer burn. And use proper containers. Glass jars would be really great. Leave a little bit of space. Don't forget that liquids expand when they freeze. And maybe Google suggests that you label and date it. I don't want it in there that long to the point where I like forget about it. I'm talking like, can I just eat this next week? Because if I make soup, I'm not just making it for one meal. Like that stuff is going to go on and on and on, but I don't want to eat it every day. So it's like, what do you do with all the excess soup? You just don't. I try to finish it. It's like a mono diet. It's like, oh God, I have to eat this soup again. This like lentil soup is going to go bad if I don't have like, at least 1 or 2 servings of lentil soup every day for the next 5 days. So yes, I think freezing is a very good solution for that. And that way I can at least stagger out when I eat the vegetable soup, when I eat my miso soup, and so on. Enough soup talk. Enough talk about soup. Let's talk about animal testing. But don't worry, it is very positive news. In the UK, the government has set out to plan to phase out animal experiments. Super good news. They do a lot of drug testing on rabbits, for instance. I don't know why. I think rabbits, mice, rats, hamsters, even cats and dogs, they're all subject to animal testing. As inhumane as that sounds, we don't really need to do animal testing anymore for a multitude of reasons. But so yes, finally the UK, which is a great place. London is actually one of the top, if not the top, vegan city in the whole world. I'm really pleased with their open-mindedness and their progressiveness. They're trying to shape the future to be more ethical in this sense, more sustainable, more humane, more animal rights friendly. So the government, they're trying to phase out animal testing. It says that a new plan includes replacing animal testing for some major safety tests by the end of this year, cutting the use of dogs and non-human primates, monkeys, in tests for human medicine by at least 35% by 2030. Okay, that's like a far out goal, but I guess these things can't happen overnight. It will take time. Animal experiments peaked at 4.14 million in 2015 because of a big increase in genetic modification experiments, mostly on mice and fish. But guess what? Just because it's a small animal or a fish, it still is a sentient being that can feel pain. And that's why it's so important to not do any type of animal testing. What's really cool, back to the ShopLogic app for a second, you can see under the, say, cosmetics section or the personal care section for your shampoo and your toothpaste and your deodorant, you can see which companies test on animals still to this day and which ones are completely cruelty-free. I even factor in parent companies because there are it's a very tricky way of saying, oh, we don't test on animals. It's like, yeah, but your parent company does. So they just give you the information that they've learned through research by conducting inhumane experiments on poor innocent animals. There are certain certification companies like PETA and Leaping Bunny that will say, oh yeah, they're cruelty free. We give them our stamp of approval. And I'm like, but it's not. It's that subsidiary company might not do animal testing, but their parent company does. And so there are bloggers out there, other animal activists, other cruelty-free champions on the internet who comprise lists which factor in the parent company. And that's why they do that, is because it's like you shouldn't be approving anything as ethical if their parent company is going to test on animals. So that's very good news to see the UK is making progress. It is about progress, not perfection. We just have to be patient. That's all for animal testing. But now let's talk about animal materials used in winter boots. It is December. I've been on the hunt for boots that don't contain any creatures that have had to perish. UGG boots are super popular. I see all the ladies at the gym wearing their UGG boots out and about. I assume that they also make footwear for men, but I just don't pay attention since women usually dress up for each other and we look at what each other is wearing and in our minds are like, oh, that's cute. That's cute. That's like it's our thing. I've been paying attention to female footwear. Not so. I'm sure the UGG brand also caters to the males. The brand UGG, which is Australian, they specialize in boots. Their products contain a lot of wool, leather, suede, and glue. It is actually very hard to find vegan shoes, especially boots. And if you look at that usually it's clear sticker on the bottom of the shoe. Sometimes it's inside the shoe. And you see this, how to explain it? It's a very bizarre shape. It's almost like a star, like an elongated star. That symbol, without words, represents cowhide. And so I take one look at that and I put that back on the shelf and I say, no, thank you. This contains leather. A lot of times they'll say, in the tongue of the shoe, the inside of the tongue of the shoe or the boot, they'll say 50% suede upper, 50% leather sole, something of that nature, or man-made materials or polyester or vegan leather. But why do we want to avoid wool? So we have leather and suede being kind of obvious of like why we wouldn't want to do that. A cow would have to be slaughtered in order to produce such materials. But what about wool? What is wrong with wool? And UGG boots, almost all of them, contain wool, and they have a very bad reputation. I think it was like years ago, it was in the news, because wool as a fabric and a material is like very, very requested to make sweaters and to make shoes, etc. The company UGG was using wool from a factory farm. Okay, imagine how many sheep that must require to produce all of the millions and millions and millions of pairs of shoes. Yes, they are factory farmed sheep as well. The issue too was that when they shear the sheep to obtain the wool, they do it so quickly, okay, hence the term factory farm. They treat these creatures like they're not real, like they're not feeling. It's a business. They're all about the money. And so they have these workers go as quickly as they possibly can to shear the sheep. The sheep is being held down. They're in pain, they're screaming, they're scared, and they're left bloody with cuts and wounds all over their body. It's super sad. And so UGGs was finally outed for using really unethical wool. Is there such a thing as ethical wool? I see, when you're not sure, it's better to just not participate. So even if it said something to the effect, which I've never seen before, made with ethically sourced wool, what have you, you just don't know what's happening behind the scenes. That's why as vegans, it's not just about food that we are eating, it's also about what we're wearing, because you do not want to participate in an industry where there is pain and suffering happening. You don't want to support with your money an industry that perpetuates the pain and suffering that these poor animals are enduring. Yeah, the UGG boots are really popular. I see so many people wearing them, and I question, do they not know about the ethics behind that, or do they just not care? I can't figure it out. I think probably the vast majority of people are just not aware. They think, well, what's wrong with wool? Like, wool has been a staple material in cultures for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So why wouldn't we use it? They are just clueless to the fact that it is actually contributing to the harm and suffering of these creatures, of these poor little furry babies. And on top of it all, if you ever see the term sustainable wool or sustainably sourced wool or something of that nature, that is an oxymoron for sure. And I'll tell you why. The actual sheep is a ruminant animal. And what that means is, similar to a cow, also a goat, they contain multiple stomachs. They have multiple stomachs inside their body. And so when they digest cud, like grass or something that they're eating, fodder, when they digest their food, it actually creates more emissions. And yes, I'm referencing gas. They are very unsustainable to this planet, and they're overbred. Humans have done that. They're not like naturally populating themselves sheeps out in the wild. They are bred beyond capacity. They take up a lot of land, and they can be very destructive in various ways. What they consume in terms of the amount of water and food required to keep these animals alive, and the land that they take up, and the gas and the waste that they emit from their bodies, all of this is not sustainable. Vegan shoes. Where can you find them? ShopLogic app or website, like always. You can find a lot of vegan brands that do shoes, boots, outdoor footwear. Some vegan brands that make shoes, boots, outdoor footwear will include Podge, PAWJ, Will's Vegan Shoe Store, Nay Vegan Shoes, that's NAE, and Merrill, although they're not totally vegan as a brand. They do have tons of good vegan options though. And so there's actually, if you get on the ShopLogic website, there is a vegan clothing brand's fashion list, which is organized by country. You're welcome. And all you have to do is if you're on a MacBook, for instance, it's Command F. Just type in shoes and you can see at least 34
35 brands that feature shoes. And the reason I organized it by your country is to support local. So if you live in Germany, you can find some German vegan shoe brands, France, Spain, UK, US, Australia, etc. And on a final note, December is Universal Human Rights Month. It's a global observance starting with Human Rights Day on December 10th. Labor trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which individuals perform labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. So when it comes to workers' rights, this falls under Human Rights Month. Something I think about quite often is we frequently forget all of the manpower that went into producing the clothing, the food, the products, everything we consume. There's a workforce behind that. And are they being treated fairly, ethically, humanely? Are they being paid well? Are they subject to some form of abuse or punishment? That's why it's always good to buy fair trade whenever you see it advertised. It is Human Rights Awareness Month, and considering those involved in the production process, they are all living, feeling, sentient creatures that have rights that are too commonly ignored, bypassed, etc., which leads to exploitation, injustice, and suffering. And to quote MLKJ, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So true. Even though he was probably referencing civil rights, it's for humans everywhere. Not just humans, I am also talking about animals. It is truly, if you think about it, a threat to justice everywhere. So don't forget to check out the ShopLogic website, the ShopLogic app, follow on socials like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to this Spotify podcast for weekly episodes to learn how we can buy better. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time. Bye.